The slap echoed across the parade ground like a gunshot. My father's calloused hand cracking against my cheek with the force of a lifetime's unspoken rage. Blood rushed to my face, hot and stinging, as the line of soldiers, my brothers in arms, faces frozen in shock, stared at me, their boots rooted in the dusty Virginia soil. "You're no son of mine," Dad snarled, his voice a whip crack in the humid southern air. "Not after what I just saw you do with that boy." I was Ethan Hayes, 22 years old, a fresh-faced private in the U.S. Army, stationed at Fort Bragg, and in that moment, everything I'd buried deep inside shattered like cheap glass. The night before, Max and I had stolen away to the edge of the base, hidden in the shadows of the pine trees, our breaths mingling in the sticky summer heat. It was just a kiss, fierce, desperate, the kind that says, "I choose you," when the world screams hide. But someone had seen. A whisper turned to a report, and now here I was, outed in the cruelest way possible. My secret life laid bare under the merciless Carolina sun. Dad's eyes, those steel-gray eyes I'd idolized since I was a kid chasing him around our backyard in Fayetteville, bored into me like bayonets. Colonel Robert Hayes, decorated war hero, pillar of the base's old-school macho code, couldn't fathom it. Not his boy. Not the one who'd enlisted at 18 to make him proud, trading college dreams for boot camp drills and the promise of proving my manhood. The soldiers shifted uneasily, guys I'd shared foxholes and beers with, who now looked at me like I'd grown horns. I tasted salt on my lips, a mix of blood and tears I refused to let fall. "Dad," I whispered, my voice cracking like a teenager's. "It's not. Shut your mouth," he roared, his face purple under the brim of his campaign hat. The crowd of 50 men, assembled for what was supposed to be a routine briefing, parted like the Red Sea as he grabbed my collar, yanking me forward. "You think this is a joke? Parading around like some fairy in my army." The word hit harder than a slap, laced with the venom of a man who'd buried his own doubts under layers of medals and machismo. I saw it then, the flicker of fear in his eyes. Not for me, but for the legacy he'd built on denial. My mom had died when I was 10, cancer eating her from the inside while Dad buried himself in deployments. I'd been his shadow, his redemption story. Now, I was his shame. One of the sergeants, a burly guy named Ramirez who'd once covered for me during a drill, stepped forward hesitantly. "Sir, maybe we should," but Dad's glare silenced him, and the man backed down, mumbling apologies. The humiliation burned deeper than any wound I'd imagined in combat training. These were my people, the ones who'd taught me to tie knots, shoot straight, and laugh off the loneliness of lights out. And now they knew. Whispers rippled through the ranks. "Fag. Disgrace. What a waste." I pulled away from Dad's grip, my uniform jacket tearing at the seam. "I'm still your son," I said, louder than I meant to, my heart pounding like artillery fire. "And I'm still a soldier." But the words fell hollow, echoing in the void where his approval used to live. He turned his back then, dismissing me with a wave to the MPs lurking at the edge of the field. "Take him to the brig. We'll sort this court-martial bullshit tomorrow." As they cuffed my wrists, loose enough to remind me this was procedure, not punishment, I caught sight of Max in the distance, half hidden behind a Humvee. His face was a mask of horror, those blue eyes wide and pleading. We met 6 months ago in basic. 2 scared kids from opposite coasts, me from the Bible Belt, him from rainy Seattle, bonding over late-night talks about everything and nothing. Max Keller, the quiet artist with a sketchbook full of forbidden dreams, who'd seen through my tough guy act from day one. Our love had bloomed in stolen moments, notes passed in the chow line, fingers brushing under mess hall tables. It was pure, uncomplicated in the dark, But now, it was the noose around my neck. The brig cell was a 6x8 concrete box, reeking of bleach and regret. I slumped against the bunk, the slap's imprint throbbing like a brand. How had it come to this? I'd always known I was different, crushing on the quarterback in high school, while Dad drilled me on push-ups and patriotism. Be a man. Ethan, he'd say, clapping my shoulder after every little league win. But manhood, in his world, meant women, wars, and whiskey. No room for the ache I felt watching guys in the locker room. Their laughter a siren call, I drowned in silence. Hours blurred into dusk, the single bulb buzzing overhead. Footsteps echoed down the hall, and the door creaked open. Not an MP, but Max, his dog tags glinting under the harsh light. They let me in, he murmured, sliding onto the bunk beside me, close enough that I could smell his soap, clean, like pine forests after rain. Ethan, God, your face. I turned away, shame coiling in my gut. You shouldn't be here. If they catch you, let them. His hand found mine. Tentative, then firm. I love you. That's not changing. The words hung there, simple and seismic, the first real anchor in the storm. I leaned into him, our foreheads touching, breaths sinking in the dimness. For a fleeting second, the world outside faded, the judgmental stares, Dad's fury, the looming discharge. It was just us, two hearts beating against the machine of expectation. But reality crashed back with a morning reveille. They hauled me before the base commander at dawn, Dad stone-faced in the corner like a statue of judgment. The charges: conduct unbecoming, moral waiver violation under don't ask. Don't tell, yeah? It was 2005, and that policy was still the Army's dirty little secret, letting us serve but not live. The commander, a weaselly major with a mustache like a broom bristle, skimmed the report. Private Hayes, this is serious. Fraternization, especially of this nature, could end your career. Fraternization, I spat, the cuffs chafing my wrists. It's love? Sir. Not a crime. Gasps rippled through the room. Dad's jaw clenched, so hard I thought it'd crack. The major cleared his throat. Love doesn't factor in military discipline. Son, you'll be processed for separation. Honorably. If you're lucky. Lucky. The word tasted like ash. I'd lose my benefits. My GI Bill dreams of studying graphic design. Hell, even my security clearance for that part-time job at the base PX. And Dad, he'd wash his hands of me. Probably ship me back to our empty house in Fayetteville with a one-way bus ticket and a Bible verse about Sodom. Max waited outside, pacing like a caged wolf. What now, he asked, pulling me into a shadowed alcove near the motor pool. His hands trembled on my arms, the first crack in his steady facade. I don't know, I admitted, voice raw, but I can't hide anymore. Not after this. The idea had been simmering since the slap, a reckless, defiant spark. Back home, Mom had left behind a trunk of her old clothes, flowing dresses from her Nashville days, soft fabrics that whispered of a freer life she'd never fully claimed. I tried one on once, at 15, in the attic, twirling before the mirror like a ghost of what could be. It felt right, like slipping into my own skin. And now, it felt like armor. That night, after they released me on my own recognizance, penning the paperwork, I slipped off base with Max's help. He drove me to the old Hayes place, a rambling rancher on the outskirts. Dad's absence a ghost in every creaky floorboard. The trunk was still there, dust motes dancing in the flashlight beam as I lifted the lid. A sundress, faded blue like Carolina skies, lay on top, Mom's favorite, from a photo of her laughing at a county fair. Ethan, Max breathed, watching as I stripped off my fatigues, the vulnerability hitting us both like a gut punch. It's not about the dress, I said, stepping into it, the hem brushing my knees. It's about me. All of me. The mirror in the hallway reflected a stranger, broad shoulders under delicate straps. My buzz cut stark against the soft cotton. But my eyes? They burned with something fierce, unyielding. Max's gaze softened, tracing me like one of his sketches. You're beautiful, he whispered, stepping closer. We didn't kiss, not yet, not with the weight of tomorrow pressing in. Instead, we talked, hours bleeding into dawn, unraveling the threads of our fears. He confessed his own secrets, a conservative family back in Seattle who'd disown him if they knew, the sketches in his journal of us that he'd burn if caught. I told him about the letters from Mom, hidden in her Bible, hinting at her own unspoken loves, a cousin who'd visited too often, touches lingering in faded Polaroids. She understood, I said, tears finally spilling. She saw me, even if Dad never will. By sunrise, the decision crystallized. I'd go back to base, not as the broken private, but as Ethan Hayes, unapologetic, wear the dress to the hearing. Force them to see. Max begged me not to. They'll crucify you, but his eyes held pride, too, the kind that stitches souls together. The drive back was silent, Max's truck rumbling over potholes like my heartbeat. Fort Bragg loomed, flags snapping in a breeze, a fortress of conformity. I stepped out in the dress, barefoot on the gravel, the fabric clinging like a second skin. Soldiers gawked from the barracks windows, catcalls mixing with stunned silence. What the hell? One yelled. Another laughed, nervous and mean. Dad was waiting at the HQ steps, flanked by the same MPs. His face drained of color when he saw me, the dress a scarlet letter in broad daylight. Ethan, for God's sake, he lunged, but I held up a hand, steady as rebar. No, Dad. You listen, my voice carried, drawing a crowd, soldiers spilling from the quad, whispers turning to murmurs. You hit me yesterday because you were scared. Scared of what I am. But I'm your son. Gay. Yeah. Different. Sure. But I enlisted for you, for this country that says liberty for all while shoving people like me into shadows. Well, shadows are done. He staggered back, hand half raised, but it hung there, trembling. The MPs shifted, unsure. Ramirez stepped forward again, this time nodding faintly. Private's got a point. Sir. Max appeared at the edge of the throng, his presence a quiet anchor. Our eyes met, and in that gaze, I saw our future not easy, but ours. Dad's shoulders slumped, the colonel cracking to reveal the man beneath. I can't, he choked out, voice breaking for the first time I could remember. Not like this. The hearing dissolved into chaos, bass brass scrambling, phones ringing off the hook as news spread like wildfire. By noon, it hit the local papers. Army son defies discharge and drag. Protests erupted outside the gates. Activists from Raleigh waving signs, while inside, loyalties fractured. Some soldiers corner me in the latrine, fists clenched. You're ruining us, one growled. But others slipped me cigarettes, muttered brave under their breath. That night, alone in my bunk, Max smuggled in again, we finally broke. Not with passion, but with sobs, his arms around me as I shook. I thought I'd lose you, he whispered into my hair. You won't, I vowed. The dress folded neatly beside us like a flag of truce. But deep down, I knew the real war was just starting. The fallout hit like a Category 5 hurricane, twisting everything familiar into wreckage. By week's end, The base was a pressure cooker, command issuing gag orders while reporters camped at the checkpoints, their satellite trucks humming like angry bees. Dad avoided me like the plague, his office door bolted shut, but I caught glimpses, hollow cheeks, eyes shadowed from sleepless nights. Part of me ached for him, that little boy inside, still craving his nod of approval. But the bigger part, it burned with a righteous fury I'd only read about in civil rights books, the kind that fueled Rosa Parks and Stonewall. Max became my lifeline, navigating the minefield with a quiet cunning that surprised even him. We'd hole up in his off-base apartment, a cramped one-bedroom in Fayetteville's sketchier side, where the AC wheezed and the neighbors blasted country anthems that made my skin crawl. To hell with them, he'd say, sketching me by lamplight, me in civvies now, a flannel shirt over jeans, but with that same defiant tilt to my chin. His pencil flew, capturing the bruise fading on my cheek, turning pain into art. You're a revolution. Ethan, my revolution. Those nights blurred into confessions, layers peeling back like onion skins. I told him about high school, the crushes I buried under football pads, the one time I kissed Tommy Reynolds behind the bleachers, only for him to punch me and call it a dare gone wrong. I thought it was just a phase, I admitted, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. Dad's voice in my head. You know, real men don't cry, don't question, don't bend. Max nodded, his own scars surfacing. My folks shipped me off to military school after they found my drawings, guys holding hands. Nothing explicit, but enough to freak them out. Prayed away, Mom said, handing me a rosary like it was a grenade pin. His laugh was bitter, but his hand in mine was steady. We weren't just lovers, we were survivors, stitching our wounds with shared stories under the hum of a box fan. But paradise and purgatory couldn't last. The betrayal came swift and sharp, courtesy of Sergeant Hale, a lifer with a buzz cut and a grudge. I trusted him, hell. We'd share guard duty, swapping tales of exes who didn't get it. Turns out, he'd been the one who'd ratted us out that night in the Pines, feeding Dad the details for a promotion pat on the back. Had to protect the unit, he sneered when I confronted him in the motor pool, grease-blackened hands balling into fists. Your little fairy tale was going to drag us all down. The words ignited something primal. I shoved him. Hard. My vision tunneling red. Protect? You call outing me protection? You're just a bully in uniform. Hale, hiding your own chicken shit fears behind a badge. Fist flew then, a blur of knuckles and curses, until Ramirez and two others pulled us apart. Hale's nose streamed crimson, but it was my dress stunt that sealed it. Article 15, non-judicial punishment, doc pay, and extra duty. Dad signed off on it himself, his scrawl like a guillotine blade. Worse was the isolation creeping in. Mess hall trays went untouched beside me, conversations dying when I entered. One night, a group of recruits cornered Max after lights out, their whispers turning physical, shoves, a split lip that swelled like a plum. He downplayed it the next day, dabbing concealer from his sister's care package. But I saw the fear in his eyes, the crack in our armor. We got to get out, I urged, pacing his apartment as rain lashed the windows. Request discharges together. Start over, Seattle. Maybe. Or San Francisco, where guys like us don't have to whisper. He hesitated, that artist's soul warring with the soldier's duty. And your dad? You just walk away. The question hung heavy, laced with the unspoken. What about us? We'd talked rings once. In a fever dream, after too many beers, commitment ceremonies. Legal in California by then. A middle finger to the ban. But dreams don't pay rent or dodge dishonorable labels. The misunderstanding deepened when a letter arrived. Postmarked from Dad's office, but typed. Impersonal. Separation proceedings initiated. Report to Psych Eval Monday. Recommend counseling for adjustment disorder. Adjustment disorder? Like being gay was a glitch to debug. I crumpled it, hurling the ball at the wall, where it bounced into Max's sketchbook. Pages fluttered open, dozens of us, laughing in the pines. My head on his lap during a rain-soaked drill. Even one of me in Mom's dress. Ethereal and unbroken. You kept these? I whispered, all cutting through the rage. All of them, he said softly, pulling me down beside him. You're my muse, Ethan, my everything. We curled together on the threadbare couch, the storm outside mirroring the one in my chest. His heartbeat against my back was a lullaby, promising tomorrows we might not deserve but would fight for anyway. Monday's psych eval was a circus, Dr. Ellis, a shrink with wire rims and a clipboard, probing like I was a lab rat. Tell me about the dress. Private. Attention-seeking? Rebellion. Her tone was clinical, but her eyes held a flicker of empathy, rare in this testosterone-fueled tomb. It was truth, I shot back, legs crossed in khakis that felt like chains. My truth. My mom's dress reminded me of her strength, the parts she hid too. I spilled it all, the slap, the love, the ache of loving a man who'd rather see me broken than whole. She nodded, scribbling furiously, and for the first time, I felt seen, not as a problem, but a person. Outside, Dad ambushed me, his truck idling like a beast. Get in, he barked. No room for no. The cab smelled of cigars and regret. Miles unspooling on Highway 87 before he spoke. That stunt of yours, it's everywhere. CNN, even. They're calling me a bigot. His knuckles whiten on the wheel. You think this helps? Embarrasses the family? I stared out at the tobacco fields blurring by. Heartsick. It's not about you, Dad. It's about surviving. You taught me that in basic, adapt or die. Silence stretched, thick as humidity, until he pulled over at a roadside diner, the kind with checkered floors and pie under glass. We sat in a booth, coffees steaming untouched, the weight of unsaid words pressing down. I loved your mom, he finally muttered, voice gravel, more than anything. But after she died, I built walls. For us. Thought if I made you tough enough, the world couldn't hurt you like it hurt her. His eyes met mine, raw and red-rimmed. Didn't see I was the one hurting you. The admission cracked me open, tears hot on my cheeks. I just wanted you to love me. All of me. We sat there, two strangers bridged by grief, until he slid a key across the table to the old house. Stay there tonight. Think. But Ethan, I'm sorry. For the slap. For everything. I nodded, throat tight, and watched him drive away. Taillights fading into dusk. Back at the apartment, Max waited with takeout and a bottle of cheap Merlot. How'd it go, he asked, uncorking with practiced ease. Complicated, I said, collapsing into his arms. We ate cross-legged on the floor, wine loosening tongues, dreams spilling out like confessions. San Francisco called, the Castro's rainbow flags. Galleries from Max's art. A life where holding hands wasn't a court-martial. But doubt lingered, a shadow at the feast. What if Dad's apology was a ploy? What if the Army folded us into oblivion? The high crashed midweek with Hale's second strike. He'd leaked my psych notes to the barracks Slack, twisted snippets painting me as unstable. A drag queen ticking time bomb. Rumors flew, suicide watch, dishonorable discharge, even whispers of fragging. Max found me in the showers, scrubbing until my skin rawed, water pounding like accusations. We leave now, he declared, towel snapping the air for emphasis. Screw the process. I've got a buddy with a truck headed west tomorrow. The decision tore at me, abandoning Dad's olive branch. The brothers who'd stood silent, but not hostile. But as Max pulled me close, his lips brushing my temple in a chaste promise, I chose us. Okay, I breathed. West it is. Packing was frantic, duffels stuffed with civvies. Mom's dress folded reverently on top. We slipped out at midnight, base lights winking farewell, hearts hammering in sync. The road unrolled under star-pricked skies, freedom tasting like diner coffee and possibility. But in the rear view, Fayetteville shrank, and with it, the boy I'd been, leaving Ethan Hayes, soldier's son, to become something truer. Interstate 40 stretched like a vein across America's heartland, pumping us westward through kudzu-choked hills and flatland monotony. Max drove first, his playlist a mix of indie folk and Springsteen anthems, Thunder Road, ironic and fitting, windows down to let the wind whip our regrets away. I dozed against his shoulder, the dress's fabric soft against my thigh, a talisman in the glove box. Dreams tangled, Dad's slap morphing into embraces, soldiers cheering instead of jeering, Max and I dancing at a wedding under California palms. We stopped in Nashville for gas and grace. The city lights a neon blur of what-ifs. Ever think about music? Max asked over greasy burgers at a Waffle House, ketchup packets exploding like tiny grenades. Your voice, it's got that gravelly twang. Could sing about all this bullshit. I laughed. The sound rusty, but real. Only if you illustrate the album cover. Me in fatigues and feathers. Middle finger to the man. It was levity, fragile as spun sugar, but it bound us tighter. That night, in a no-tell motel with sheets like sandpaper, we talked futures, not just survival, but thriving. He'd applied to art schools in the Bay. I'd chased that GI Bill for design classes. Maybe freelance logos for queer-owned businesses. A life, he murmured, tracing my palm with his thumb. Ours, but the past is a dog with teeth, and it caught up in Oklahoma, of all places. We'd pulled off for coffee near Tulsa, bleary-eyed and buzzing on caffeine, when my phone, burner now, courtesy of a Walmart in Memphis, lit up with Dad's number. I stared at it, thumb hovering, until Max nodded. Answer. Closure's a road we both gotta walk. Ethan, Dad's voice crackled, strained over the miles. Where the hell are you? MPs came by, said he went AWOL. Not AWOL. I corrected, pulse thundering. Just. Gone. Needed air. Dad. After Hale's leak. The notes, it's poison there. Silence. Then a sigh like wind through pines. I shut him down. Demoted the bastard this morning. And the notes? Retracted. Unofficially. My breath hitched. Apology in action. Not words. Come back. Son. Fight it proper. I've got pull. Could get you reassigned. Stateside posting. The offer dangled. Seductive as forbidden fruit. Reassigned? A fresh start under Dad's wing. Proving I could serve and be me. But Max's hand on my knee grounded me. A silent remember why. I appreciate it, I said carefully. But it's not just the Army. It's everything. The hiding. The slaps, literal and not. I need to build something real. Dad. With Max. Another pause. Heavier. That boy. He good to you. The best. Pride swelled. Unfiltered. Loves me. Flaws in dress and all. Dad grunted. Discomfort evident. Tell him. Welcome to the family. If he wants it. The line went dead. But the echo lingered, a bridge half-built. Wobbly but there. We drove on. Boyd, sharing the wheel through Texas panhandle dust devils and New Mexico mesas that glowed like embers at sunset. Stories flowed. Max's first crush on a surf instructor back home. Salty kisses stolen on Cannon Beach. My attic twirls in mom's dresses. Mirror whispering yes. Laughter mixed with tears. The cab, our confessional. Albuquerque brought the first real test. A queer youth center flyer caught Max's eye at a gas station. "Want to stop?" he asked. Casual but hopeful. Inside, rainbow banners draped cinderblock walls. Kids my age, trans. Bi. Ace, huddled over board games and bad coffee. A workshop on coming out in red states was starting. We crashed it. Anonymous in the back row. The facilitator, a wiry woman named Jo with tattoos snaking up her arms, shared her tale. Outed in the Navy during the AIDS crisis. Discharged with a slap on the wrist and a lifetime of what-ifs. "But look at us," she said, gesturing to the circle. We're the storm they couldn't weather. Hands raised. Stories spilled. Rejections. Runaways. Rare reconciliations. One guy, barely 18, clutched a photo of his Marine dad, eyes mirroring my own mix of love and loss. After, Max and I lingered, volunteering to stack chairs. "This," he whispered, bumping my shoulder. "This is why we left. Connection. Raw and electric, without uniforms or ultimatums." We swapped numbers with Joe, promising to ping when we hit Frisco. The road west turned meditative, deserts giving way to Sierra foothills. But doubt crept in like fog, money dwindling, job prospects hazy. Max sketched roadside diners and Joshua trees, selling a few pieces online via his ancient laptop. But it was pennies. What if we crash and burn? I voiced one night, camped under stars near Bakersfield, sleeping bags zipped together against the chill. "Then we burn bright," he replied, nose to mine in the dark. Together, his certainty was my compass, pointing true north. San Francisco welcomed us with fog-shrouded bridges and a Castro welcome mat, bustling sidewalks alive with flags and flirtations. We couch-surfed first, crashing with Joe's cousin, a drag king named Rex who ruled Tuesday open mics. "Honey, that dress story? Gold," Rex drawled over vegan tacos, silver eyeliner gleaming. "Spill it on stage." Crowd eats vulnerability with fries. I demurred, but Max nudged me. "Do it. Defy them here. 2, on your terms." The club was a dive called the Mint. Velvet curtains and sticky floors, like screeching feedback as I climbed the stage. Heart slamming. Dress traded for a simple button-down. I gripped the stand. So, my dad slapped me in front of 50 soldiers for loving a man. Call me no son of his. But here's the thing. I wore my mom's dress the next day. Not to shock, but to say, this is me. Gay, proud, unbroken, laughter, then applause, thunderous, affirming. Eyes locked on Max in the front row, beaming like I'd hung the moon. Offstage, hands clapped my back, drinks appeared, gratis. For the first time, I breathed easy, the weight of brag lifting like morning mist. But paradise has pitfalls. A week in, Dad called again, this time video, his face filling my cracked phone screen from the ranch house kitchen. "Ethan, you look good." Awkward small talk flowed. Whether Max's art, he waved from the background, earning a stiff nod. Then the bomb. I'm retiring. End of month. Thought. Maybe you'd come for the ceremony. As family, the invite stunned. A olive branch turned oak. I'd like that, I managed. Throat tight. With Max. A beat. Yeah. With Max. Click. We stared at each other, stunned silent, then whooping like kids, dancing around the borrowed living room. Life slotted in. Max landed a barista gig at a queer cafe. Sketching patrons between lattes, I enrolled in community college. Graphic design 101. My first assignment, a poster for a pride march, Defied dress. Nights were ours, picnic hills, sunsets. Hands laced as the city sparkled below. Whispers of forever. Yet the high tide recedes, revealing rocks. Hale resurfaced via email, anonymized, but his venom unmistakable. Heard you're playing house in fairyland. Watch your back. Princess. Army doesn't forget. Attached. A grainy photo from the parade ground. Me mid-slap. Circulated like contraband. Paranoia bloomed, shadows and alleys. Knocks at midnight that proved nothing. Max thought fraying me. It's bluff, he soothed one fog-draped evening. Walking the Embarcadero. Gulls wheeling overhead. You're free now, but freedom's a fragile bird. And mine fluttered when Dad's retirement invite turned complication. Brass from brag attending. Including the major who'd greenlit my discharge. Old ghosts, I fretted. Pacing our new studio sublet. Tiny, but ours. With bay views through salt-streaked windows. Bring him, Max said. Fierce. With a damn dress. Show him Hayes' blood runs deep and colorful. The flight east was turbulence in more ways than one. Nerves jangling like loose change. Dad met us at RDU. Khakis crisp. A hesitant smile cracking his facade. Max, he extended a hand. Grip firm. Good to meet you proper. Max shook it. Eyes wary but warm. The drive to Fayetteville hummed with stilted chat, bass gossip. Max's sketches. Dad even flipped through a portfolio, muttering talent. Home was surreal. The rancher unchanged. Mom's trunk still in the attic like a time capsule. Dinner was pot roast and politeness. Dad toasting to new chapters with sweet tea that tasted like truce. But bedtime brought the undercurrent, guest room for us. Door cracked like concession. Dawn of the ceremony broke humid. Sky bruised purple. I donned a dress, blue sundress. Simple. Mom's locket at my throat. Max in slacks and button down. Handsome as sin. Squeeze my hand. Ready, scared shitless. But the mirror showed resolve. Chin high. Fort Bragg's parade ground. Same dust. Same flags. Felt like a battlefield redux. Soldiers in formation. Brass on risers. Dad at the podium in full regalia. Whispers hit as we approached. That's him. The dress kid. Hale lurked in the ranks. Smirked like a scar. Dad's speech droned. Service. Sacrifice until he paused. Eyes finding me in the crowd. Family's what keeps us marching, he said. Voice steady. Even when they challenge us. Force us to grow. A nod my way. Subtle but seismic. Applause swelled. But eyes drilled into us. Curious. Cold. Post-ceremony mingle turned gauntlet. The major cornered Dad. Voice low but carrying. Colonel. This. Optics. Your boy in that getup. Dad's face hardened. My son. Major. Optics be damned. But Hale slithered closer. Breath hot on my ear. Told you we don't forget. His hand shot out, not a slap, but a grab for the locket. Yanking hard. Chain snapped. Locket skittering across gravel. Time slowed. Max lunging. Fist connecting with Hale's jaw. Me diving for the heirloom. Dress tearing at the hem. Chaos erupted. MPs swarming. Dad bellowing orders. Hale sprawled. Spitting gravel. While Max loomed protective. Knuckles bloodied. Touch him again. Max growled. And you'll need more than a stripe to hide. Dad hauled Hale up. Face thunderous. You're done. Sergeant. Court-martial. Now, the man blanched. Drag away. His glare venomous defeat. In the aftermath, under the oaks, Dad clasped my shoulders, gentle, no slap in sight. Proud of you, Ethan. Both of you. Max earned a gruff hug. The three of us a nod of awkward grace. We flew west that night. Locket repaired. Heart scarred but scarred together. San Francisco reclaimed us. Gallery shows for Max. My designs gracing Pride tees. Dad visited once. Twice. Then monthly. Awkward brunches evolving to ball games. Stories of Mom bridging gaps. Years folded. Don't ask lifted in 11. Our wedding under those same oaks. Dad walking me down the aisle in a borrowed suit. Eyes misty. Hail faded to footnote. A warning in whispers. We built. Home in the Castro. Adopted kid with Max's eyes. My studio humming with commissions. Looking back, that slap was the spark. The dress the flame. Defiance wasn't destruction. It was dawn. And in Max's arms. Every night, I knew we'd defied them all. Not by breaking, but by blooming.